Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 5-game slate in the association. Mike, we're past the holidays. We're on to more balanced slates. 5-game slate for matchups. How does that feel today? How are you doing?
Yeah, it felt great. Loved the light little matchups today. Didn't write too much yesterday. Was kind of watching a lot of basketball and working with projections and stuff. But yeah, it was I love little 5-gamers. 5 to 7 is my sweet spot, and a lot of bad defenses on the slate. So in particular spots. So really, besides like the headline game, the Lakers and 76ers, I thought there was kind of a lot of little nuance and places to attack in this slate today. So it should be fun.
All right, well, let's get into it from an injury standpoint. Let's start with the Lakers and Washington. On the Lakers side, questionable tags on LeBron James and Cam Reddish, while Anthony Davis is probable. They will be without Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, and Gabe Vincent, so still lacking some of that back-end depth. Potentially more if Cam Reddish is unable to go. And these LeBron questionable tags we've been dealing with pretty consistently during the course of the season. Any concerns there?
Yeah, he is what we are calling fake Q for him. So I expect him to be out there with full minutes. Minutes have been really strong. The usage rate's been pretty good. Been handling a lot. He's first in team touch time over the last handful of games too. So pretty good role for LeBron. Cam Reddish a little trickier. He was questionable last game. Got ruled out really early, and we saw him get hurt and limp to the locker room and looked pretty bad. So I kind of think he misses. And we saw Max Christie really step up and pick up a really big on-ball role defensively as he guarded Darius Garland before Garland got hurt. So, yeah, he would probably benefit a lot here. He would get the Tyrese Maxey matchup, I would think. So he could, play a bunch in a matchup that's, not great overall. But they don't have Reddish. They, as we mentioned previously, their on-ball D bucket is real thin with really just Turing Prince and Maxey. So, I'm sorry, and Max versus Maxey situation there. So I think they could really benefit if Reddish is out again.
On the Philadelphia side of this game, no questionable tags listed here, just out tags for Danuel House, Kelly Oubre Jr., and Jaden Springer, and then the G League guys. How does the absence of House or Springer impact Philadelphia rotation at all?
Could condense things a little bit. We know Nick Batum's been pretty strong in that first unit. They liked his defense for help defense, all that stuff. It probably would be Tobias Harris guarding LeBron with Batum kind of helping and being the load up guy. But yeah, should see a decent bit of Covington. We know Covington gets called upon a little bit more in the spot when there's a big wing on the other end. So I think Covington's minutes could be secure. We've seen Marcus Morris slide in there, even getting some minutes at the 5 last week there. So I think those guys are mostly going to be in there. Pretty big win for them. Though they almost lost it. The OKC made a late run there. But yeah, I think that this is going to be pretty much the same rotation that we saw in the last game. Maybe not as much Patrick Beverly with a little bit more Covington this time.
All right, Portland and Indiana. Portland on the back end of a back-to-back here after a tough loss in Milwaukee yesterday. Listed on the injury report, they're still without Anthony Simons, Ish Wainwright, Robert Williams, Ryan Rupert on G League assignment. Not listed on the injury report, perhaps surprisingly, Malcolm Brogdon, who did play heavy minutes yesterday in his return to Milwaukee, 34 minutes. We did see him play a back-to-back earlier in the week when he was on minutes restrictions, so there were some concerns there. What are your instincts on if we see any more additions to this injury report as the day goes on, or if we're good to go here on Portland?
Yeah, we got to take them at their word here, right? No probable, their probable tags have been a little shady this year, which we talked about. But hey, they didn't list them, so expecting to be good. As you mentioned, playing in both ends of the back-to-back, coming off a hamstring strain, considering his history, was pretty shocking to me. I was surprised they did that. Did run him pretty hard on the cap, running about 6 minutes stints there. Obviously, yesterday afternoon, he did not have a strict cap, 34, really big second-half stints as well. So he looks to be cleared. 13 minutes of overlap with him and Scoot Henderson yesterday afternoon. So that's something to watch as his ball handling role cut down a little bit as Scoot got in the mix. Scoot finally had a good game, his most efficient game by a lot, just thanks to good three-point shooting. But yeah, so Brogdon's role is starting to shrink. Obviously, the matchup is spectacular here. Still driving a ton when he has the ball. We know that the Indiana defense is really vulnerable to drive-heavy guards, so could be in a really big spot. We have a little bit of a minutes restriction on him from just because it's back-to-back, and there's a pretty big spread, 12-point spread as well. So I don't think Brogdon's going to be quite full, but he could be. We could be wrong, just because we've been kind of cautious with this situation, and they aren't really being very cautious here. So I think he has a ceiling. Scoot also off minutes limit. We saw him play longer stints, overlapping. I mentioned 13 minutes with Brogdon. Role's pretty small. He's not. It's clearly Brogdon's show, but he's sharing a little bit of that. I should mention DeAndre Ayton also not listed on the injury report. He had a small injury cost the game there, so he should be good to go. His minutes have been down a little bit since the probable tag, so I think his minutes ceiling isn't as high. Jeremy Grant's been playing a ton. We saw Matisse Thybulle really cutting to Monty Kamara, who kind of struggled with the Dame assignment there. But yeah, should be pretty much the same situation here. We Scoots, I think minutes are pretty safe. Might even get garbage time here. He didn't get garbage time a couple of games ago when it was blown up, but they had a hard cap on him. So I think Scoots minutes could kind of get up there here, especially if the Pacers do the blowing out.
On the Pacers side, they just have Aaron Nesmith listed questionable with the right wrist sprain. Otherwise, it's just the G League guys. Any news or notes around the Nesmith injury?
Yeah, Nesmith got shots up yesterday. His wrist was wrapped. Seems like he's got a pretty good shot to return. It looked like he had an outside chance to play in the last game, but he did not. So we'll see if this moves Obi Toppin out. As we mentioned last week, Obi Toppin did not start in the Atlanta game. That was a matchup-driven move, according to Rick Carlisle. So I would expect Obi Toppin to start. Certainly the minute ceiling is not there. We've seen him hit mid-30s with Nesmith out. So definitely keeping an eye on that. But I expect him to start. That's Obi there with, Nesmith would kind of cut out some of their bench guys. We saw a lot of double big lineups. That was a really surprising move from Rick Carlisle as they went Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson a lot in the second half. That was, a move that was because of the Nesmith. That would obviously go away. Nesmith would fill that role. So, yeah, I think he would play a bit. They could use the on-ball handling, probably pick up a lot of Jeremy Grant assignment. They've been asking Scoot to handle ball handlers, so Scoot probably going to have to guard a lot of Halliburton when he's out there. So almost cover Boyd Halliburton, but I thought that would have been kind of too easy. So, I think he's in a pretty big spot.
Do you think Matherin's ceiling is impacted by Nesmith's availability in any way, shape, or form? We did see him get up to 31 last game without Nesmith.
Yeah, a little bit. They like Buddy. I think Buddy's kind of a known quantity, and they're trying to trust him. So I think that Buddy's pretty secure. They're gonna need Bruce Brown to play a lot of on-ball defense in this game as well. So yeah, I like the matchup from he could perform per minute, but I don't know if the minute ceiling's there.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like it came at the expense of Obi a little bit, just looking at the box score when you see Heald and Brown there. So I didn't know if he's in the same bucket as Nesmith potentially. But obviously Matherin, the minutes variance has been really high during the course of this season. We've seen games as low as the teens that he started. We've seen games off the bench that he's gotten into the 30s. So it's a pretty wide range on him. Okay, let's go to the Washington-Detroit game. On the Washington side of things, they're still without DeLon Wright. Without some of the G League guys as well. And then Jordan Poole listed questionable with this left ankle sprain that reportedly came in warmups of last game. I think that was Saturday. Oh, yeah. Saturday. And it was, post lock that the news came out. He wasn't on the injury report. They said he injured himself in warmups, which is just a frustrating part of the NBA and the injury reporting and the game times starting after lock times and all these different things that happen with the NBA that can be frustrating at times. What is your read on Jordan Poole's availability tonight?
Yeah, not a great one. Tilting situation. We spent a lot of time. We put 3 Wizards bets in this game because we felt pretty good. We literally were waiting for the injury report to come out until our projections went live. And of course, Jordan Poole gets ruled out. We had an under on him that obviously was a void, but that was just so tilting because we played it the best we could, and we still got, we didn't get punished. The bet split, but anyways, yeah. So I don't have a great read on it. Sounds like he could be back. Sounds pretty minor. I think it may have been back-to-back related as well. So expect him to probably be out there. Minutes should be pretty good. He's been starting to play a little bit more. I don't think he'll be limited with a little bit of an ankle tweak. And someone's got to win this game, right? The Pistons are on an 13-game losing streak. The Wizards on a 9-game losing streak. These teams are 2-14. Just total dumpster fire show here. Obviously, if Poole doesn't go, it'll be Corey Kispert starting again. More Bilal Coulibaly, who continues to play a bunch of minutes. We saw a little bit of Jared Butler, who actually had a pretty big handling role. A lot of it was garbage time. But and then should shout out Kyle Kuzma. His role has been huge. Massive on-ball role. He's been running more pick and roll. Really, really good matchup here. I think Isaiah Stewart probably can't guard him. So we're so worried about blowout with the Wizards. This team, the Pistons are so bad that they may not have the blowout risk. So there could be some fantasy value against the defense that's been a little bit better with Jalen Duren out there.
Detroit side of things, no questionable tags here. They're still without Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Harris, Monty Morris, Jared Rhoden. Any notes on the Detroit side of things? We saw Jalen Duren return, bench roll, minutes limit. Then he plays more minutes than we would have projected for him starting. So what's your expectation around Jalen Duren tonight?
I mean, he's going to play a lot, right? The guy's on a minutes limit and goes out there, plays 29 minutes. There was commentary from Monty Williams saying they wanted to kind of do that to like really maximize his opportunity. So I think that's probably a one-game thing. We'll see. It kind of makes no sense to me to bring him off the bench again. So I would expect him to start, probably play around 30 minutes if this game's close, which it should be. Obviously, the matchup is as good as it gets. We've been playing centers against the Wizards since Daniel Gafford got there. Yeah, pretty good spot for him. Definitely a guy that you guys will be talking about on the DFS show.
And then Ausar Thompson's minutes ceiling seemed to have been heavily impacted by the return of Isaiah Livers. We saw Livers get up to 26 minutes in this game. Wasn't particularly impactful, a negative 15 on the plus minus side, just shoots a couple threes. Does that continue to be a thorn in the Ausar Thompson ceiling side of things?
Yeah, just because their on-ball deep roll was real thin. He was really the only guy that was a trusted wing / on-ball defender. So, yeah, Livers is a guy they trusted. We know, I always want to bet. Last year, I always wanted to bet Isaiah Livers overs when they were playing someone like Luka, because that would be heavy minutes going him. Obviously, a different team now, but just to kind of give you a reference point of how Livers has been viewed from coaching staff, certainly a different one. But yeah, stealing case comes down a little bit just because they have other options now in the form of Isaiah Livers. Should mention Jaden Ivey is alive here, coming off a 25-point game, playing really well. Looks like he's out of the doghouse. Still pretty bad defensively, so there's again a lot to attack here. With Tyus Jones probably getting some of that matchup. I think Poole would probably get Ausar, who could be okay, and I don't think that's too big of a threat for the way Poole plays. He's kind of reckless, anyways.
And then Isaiah Stewart on Kuzma is the assumption there.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. On to the New Orleans and Utah game. New Orleans side: CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Matt Ryan, all still out. Trey Murphy, still no real great reporting around that I've seen, and still listed straight out. So keep waiting. Any other notes on the Pelicans here? Should have Zion back in this one after the absence on the back-to-back over the weekend.
Yeah, pure back-to-back with Zion. Not surprised to see Jordan Hawkins start and shoot a lot. Yeah, they just ran out of gas. They got completely smoked in the fourth quarter. Willie Green, basically, he said, "I'm not going to make excuses," but he talked about the back-to-back maybe 5 or 6 times in his presser. And they didn't have Zion, who is in a really good spot here. Zion's playing great. His last 3 games he's played, his half-court efficiency is way, 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 way up. He's not even getting transition, so he's scoring like 26.5 over his last 3, I think. And that's without transition scoring. So if he gets the transition against a team that's been really bad in transition, could be a really big Zion game. I told you I didn't want to take a layup of a matchups cover boy Zion for matchups. I feel really good about his chance to perform today. Minutes are pretty strong, rested since Friday as well. So I'm really excited about him. We know Dyson Daniels and Herb Jones are locked into starting minutes. Herb had a little bit of foul trouble. We know he could play a bunch. They need him here. So Herb will almost certainly get the Jordan Clarkson matchup. Keontae probably seeing Dyson Daniels. And then obviously Valanciunas' mid ceiling comes down a little bit. Brandon Ingram, a little underwhelming from a scoring standpoint, considering no Zion in the matchup. Had Simone Fontecchio on him. We'll explain why that happened in a minute. But I think this is a pretty good bounce back spot for the Pels after a really tough schedule loss. At least that's what Willie Green will tell you, which I believe. I mean, it's a tough back-to-back to go to Utah and play.
Yeah, the back-to-backs in altitude are difficult. Dyson Daniels, 7 stocks in that game, going up against the inexperienced ball handling of Keontae George. Interesting to see if he can replicate that kind of steals blocks performance tonight. On the Utah side,
I think he had 13 deflections. I saw someone tweet that, just crazy.
Yeah. On the Utah side of things, Jordan Clarkson and Larry Markkinen both listed questionable here. They missed this game over the weekend. As a result, you saw this very funky starting lineup with some guys that have not even been in the rotation for much of the year. Over here at 7, Simone Fontecchio, Chris Dunn. It was a very strange starting lineup to get. What are your thoughts on whether we see it again, if Clarkson or Larry are available tonight? What are your notes on Utah?
Well, I wonder if our chat's working because I thought, yeah, there we go. There's the chat because Lori just got ruled out as you were
Okay.
talking. See, there we go.
Okay.
Those are the first comments. What's with the chat today? I guess you guys are a rough holiday weekend. Yeah, so that means, and we were on this though. I mentioned to all our Slack, like, watch out. Will Hardy said he's going to change his lineup, be ready for stuff, and we weren't ready for this with Yurt Seven, Simone Fontecchio, Chris Dunn. I was ready for something, but that's pretty bold. So Clarkson's back. Clarkson, I would say quite confidently, is taking Chris Dunn's starting spot. I mentioned he will be probably getting a Herb on him, so returning off of illness against Herb, that's pretty bad. Simone Fontecchio seems pretty comfortable. Will Hardy liked what he saw, and he's liked what he's seen out of him, so I think Fontecchio is getting the start, guarding Brandon Ingram again. John Collins should start again, and then we could probably expect Walker Kessler, who returned off an injury, to get back in the starting lineup after the elbow injury that he hurt on opening night, played through it for a couple weeks, and then he's missed a couple weeks there. So should be pretty. I feel pretty good about that. Will Hardy said, he was pretty, like I mentioned, pretty aggressive in saying he was going to change his lineup. But we hear that all the time. We hear Mike Brown say it, yada yada. Everyone says it,
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm a man of my word. I'm gonna switch stuff when I say things like that. So that was, message received, Will Hardy. But expect them to, they got to win, right? So I think that they're gonna start Keontae, Jordan Clarkson, Fontecchio, John Collins, Walker Kessler, bench unit. We'll see if Chris Dunn could cut out Ochai Agbaji, who I think would be at risk if Dunn's in the mix. Taylor Horn-Tucker, another guy who could be at risk here, adding more ball handling than Clarkson and the wing rotation. So I think THT and Ochai Agbaji are at risk. We'll see if Kelly Olynyk is affected. Maybe they go a little bit smaller, tougher to do against Zion. So that's kind of, Sexton, I think, is a little bit safer than the other two, interestingly, just because the role he provides there. But this is going to be a tough projection for sure with Laurie out again.
Yeah, especially with Laurie out, the role Sexton provides in terms of scoring and offense is a little bit more necessary than some of the ball handling roles if they're going to play Chris Dunn for defense stuff. So we're back to where it's a messy situation for Utah. Even this game, right? This was without Lauri Markkanen, without Jordan Clarkson. 10 guys, not a single one gets above 28 minutes. This is kind of what I've been preaching all season with Utah. That is the concern from a fantasy perspective. Was really difficult to project the other night. We were trying to take really cautious approaches on the minute side, and this is why Will Hardy does not have a lot of confidence in many of the guys here at all, and so the floors can really fall out from underneath them quickly. Okay, yeah. Denver and the Clippers. Denver on the second night of a back-to-back here. We noted when we were sweating bets last night and talking about how the Denver starters are playing deep into this game with San Antonio, where they're up 20 points. They're shorthanded. You had noted some comments from Mike Malone losing faith a bit in some of the bench rotation pieces. Zeke Naji was the first sub off the bench. He finished with 1 minute and 2 fouls to speak to some of that lost confidence. They're going to be without Aaron Gordon once again tonight and without Jamal Murray once again tonight. They've listed Nikola Jokic questionable with low back pain. This feels like a potential rest spot for Jokic. He's been carrying just such an enormous load offensively in the absence of Jamal Murray. You're already without Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. They have generally, ever since kind of the bubble playoff series, really handled the Clippers really, really well. I feel like it's almost like maybe we don't even give them any momentum of feeling like you got to win against any of our normal guys. So I am very skeptical of this Jokic questionable tag. He plays through a lot of questionable tags. I will note he is historically. What are your risk levels on this Jokic questionable tag tonight?
Still leaning in for me. We talked a lot about this. The Nuggets have routinely put probable tags on a lot of their players on the front end of a back-to-back. They've been doing this, I don't know, the last 6-7 back-to-backs over the last couple of seasons. So expected, honestly, to get the Q tag. I think they're going to try to play him. They've been terrible on the road. I think Mike Malone really wants to get this road win. I mean, the way they handled themselves on their East Coast trip, they play well at home, but I think he wants this win pretty bad. So I would lean Jokic is in. As you mentioned, he has pounded this team the last 2 games, 32, 16, and 9 earlier this year. Last year in overtime game, 40, 17, and 10, freaking 40 point, almost a 40, 20, 10. Overtime helped them a little bit, but he has just owned this team, and they need him. Last 2 games, 131 touches, 131 of them, 77 front court touches, just ridiculous numbers. They don't have any confidence in any of their ball handlers. I think he's going to go out there and play a lot. Again, I could be wrong. He could miss. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Justin Holiday, I would say, is a lock for a starting job, A, and B, I think his minutes could be higher. He didn't play garbage time, was looking at pretty close to 30 minutes. I expect that to continue. Peyton Watson, big time rebound. He had a really rough week going into the weekend, but actually got the defensive player of the game chain. Mike Malone said he challenged him, like literally in front of his whole team. He was like, "Hey, we need to be more consistent and play to that level." Like, that's a pretty big call out for a young player. So we'll see if Peyton Watson, who they would need. They need the wing defense really bad here. So I think Peyton Watson possibly in good graces. And as I mentioned in our Slack channel, Zeke Naji, the shortest of leashes. Brody would have to be a very, very, very bad boy to be on that short of a leash. So, that's kind of where we're at. Christian Brown's minutes, not quite as high. He's kind of fallen a little bit out of favor from like the high. Like normally we'd think he'd play a lot, right? He was taking minutes from MPJ, yada, yada, yada. So, that's kind of where we're at. I think DeAndre is going to probably get all the backup center minutes. I think Zeke's kind of cooked here.
Yeah. The other note I'd have on the Jokic Q tag here is that Friday night, their previous game was an in-season tournament game. They were down like 20 pretty much the whole night to Houston. Jokic finished with 42 minutes. In that game, there was a point in the second quarter or third quarter where he had like 28 points and 8 assists, and they had 65 total points. And if all those assists were just 2-pointers, the absolute minimum in terms of points creation there, we're talking about he had been directly responsible for like 44 of their 62 points or something like that. The load that he's carrying right now is just outrageous in the absence of Jamal Murray and now Aaron Gordon as well. So I would be on kind of red alert here. And from a DFS perspective, I think we'll talk about it on the DFS show later tonight, but I think he's got to come in almost low owned tonight because it's an island game in terms of the time start, and there's not going to be pivots, right? He's just at a different salary level than everybody else. So I'm very interested to see how the field plays this situation tonight, but I am leaning towards maybe more 65-35 in terms of him sitting tonight personally. Ooh, okay. I just think he's been asked to carry too big of a load. He needs some time off. Okay. Clippers side.
One more thing, if I could add, Murray is getting closer. So he's not going to play today, but it sounds like that it was always end of the month kind of target. So maybe this is one last hurrah that he's got to be Superman. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Their schedule is, they've got a game on Wednesday, and then they've got a game on Friday. Those are games at home against Houston, then at Phoenix, and then Saturday at Sacramento. So they have 3 more games this week, a 3 and 4. It just feels like this could be a decent sit spot for Yoke. I love watching Jokic play, so I hope it's not, but I'm concerned. Clippers side, Mason Plumlee out, Brandon Boston Jr. out. No other notes on the Clippers injury report. Any from you?
Nope. Just, Paul George has been the main man, upper 20s usage. Not many other guys kind of flirting with that. James Harden has a terrible role right now. Only since the Westbrook move, he's only at 10 drives per game. His touch time is like 20th in the NBA since Westbrook moved to the bench, which he's usually like top 2 or 3. 17 and change usage rate. It's terrible. His role is disgusting. So keep an eye on that. We'll see if Kawhi can kind of get going here. No Aaron Gordon helps him a lot. His matchup gets significantly better. But yeah, Clippers kind of out of the doghouse and playing a little bit better now.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you enjoy the content that we're providing here for free, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button. It helps feed the algorithm, which helps feed us and allows us to feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis that you need to make your spread bets, your prop bets, your DFS lineups, so on and so forth. So I will save you on the sales pitch for all of our premium content at Established Run. You can check out establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more information on our products and offerings, because I'd like to keep this short and get out of here and get back to the projections work where I feel nice and cozy. So smash that like button, gently caress it, press it firmly, whatever you'd like to do, and help us feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.